This episode is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. Michelob Ultra is perfect for more than just the summer heat this year, because not only is it refreshing and crisp with only 95 calories, but Ultra is also the official beer sponsor of Team USA at the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Celebrate every point, race, and moment with Team USA and Michelob Ultra for the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Stock up on Michelob Ultra and cheer on Team USA. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2024 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
This episode is brought to you by Twizzlers. Long day, late night, feeling a little bored? Twizzlers is the ultimate sidekick for any moment of the day, no matter what kind of day you're having. The perfect level of sweet and a fun excuse to sit back and relax. Unwind with Twizzlers. To buy now, visit Hersheyland.com/Twizzlers.
Oh, I went in character, by the way. I went in complete character. I was surly and unattractively, really a mess. And Barbet Schroeder was the director. Fred Roos was the producer. And they liked what they saw, apparently. And they said, "Oh, we'd like you to read." And they hand me the script, and they show me a scene. Now, this is naivete, and sometimes it works in your favor. I knew nothing about the industry other than studying, right? I literally said, "No, I want to read this scene" that I had seen in the script. And there was a shot glass on the desk. Now, for your listeners, one of the cardinal rules is don't touch the desk of the casting person. But I didn't know that.
Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of Thanks for Coming In. I'm your host, Jillian Clare. If this is your first time tuning in, this is the show where I speak to fellow actors about their journey and make them share some fun audition stories with me. If you're not following the show on social media, you should do that. Go check us out on TikTok and Instagram. And we're also now going to be posting all of the videos on YouTube so you can see us. So go check us out over there and make sure to subscribe. While you're at it, you should hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening to the podcast right now. All right, folks, what's going on? There's a lot happening in the world. I'm very excited about Mamala and Coach. Video game actors are on strike. The IMA strike is in full force. If you're wondering about that, you can go to the SAG-AFTRA website to learn about what you can and can't do and all the things happening within the strike. I went to the first in-person strike action last week at WB, and it was awesome. Great turnout. I was reunited with all of my fellow WB strike captains from the 2023 TV theatrical strike, and it felt like a big homecoming. So it was really cool to see them. But go check out what this strike is about and see how you can support all of the video game performers. Okay, let's get into things. Today on the show, we have Roberta Bassin. You know her best from the iconic movie Barfly. We talk about a lot of really fun things, and she's in the brand new show, Presumed Innocent, on Apple. And it was just a pleasure to get to know her. So here is my conversation with Roberta Bassin. And welcome to the show, Roberta!
Hi. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay!
It's a great show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have you. I love, love, love talking to people who have had these incredible careers and have done so much because there's so much to dive into. And I'm just so honored that you're here today.
I'm doubly honored to be invited. Your guests are fabulous, so I'm glad to be included. It's very special, seriously.
Well, the first thing I love to dive into with my guests here is asking what made you want to be an actor?
I always say, did it choose me or did I choose it? Because ever since I was probably 2, my mother would say, I'd always jump around and I'd say, "Watch me, Mommy, watch me." And I don't know and what that says about me, but I was always dancing and singing. And even in elementary school, there was a little girl who was already acting, and we were in an auditorium, and I was sitting next to her, and I said, how do you get into the business of what you do? I remember sitting there and asking her. She used to wear false ponytails. She was very Hollywood already.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and my mother had no idea. There's no show business people in the family. And I knew we were out to lunch once at a place called Vandy Camp's Restaurant. It was a big chain at the time. And and Jimmy Dodd and a couple of people from the show, the Musketeers, which was a Disney show. I watched it all the time, and I wanted to be on it. I literally left the table where my mother and aunt were sitting, and I marched over. And I remember I happened to be all dressed up that day. And I went over and I literally went up to the table and introduced myself and asked how I could get on the show. I was still in elementary school. I must have been about 10 or 11. Probably.
Oh my gosh.
And they told me what to do. And I remember they were really pleased with me talking with them. There were 4 people. And it was the 2 stars, the 2 adult stars of the show were there. And they told me my ballet teacher had to choreograph a dance for me. And then I don't remember if they gave me any exact information, but they told me then, she applies to Disney, I assume. Anyways, so I worked on that dance. I don't think I ever got to the audition part. It seems to me I don't remember anything about that aspect, so I don't think we actually got that far, but I learned that dance. And I remember asking my mother to take me to a place when I was probably 9 for a show called Rocket to Stardom, which was a talent show that was filmed at a used car dealership.
Oh my gosh.
And I sang Around the World in 80 Days, and I did a ballet dance to it. And I had my costume on and everything. And the lady, this is really like, you say, should I say this? The lady running it said, well, she started off on the wrong note, or she sang a wrong note. There was a whole audience there in this like tent or play in this dealership on the lot. And the piano player said, yeah, but the dance was good. and it didn't affect me. I didn't get it. I remember it rolled right off. I marched out down the aisle. My mother just followed me. It was all me. It wasn't my mom. So, and then this is really a long story kind of, but this is how it all began. And then, I just did things in schools but I didn't go for the work, the career, the professional career. I married my prom date. I went to UCLA, got my BA in history and English, got my teaching credential, had 2 children. And then when my children were about 2 and 5, one night, I thought to myself, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. And now I'm going to do what I want to do. I wanted to do all those things, but I still had the passion to go for this career as a professional, not as a hobby. People would say, why don't you do it as a hobby? But I wanted to be a working professional actor. And so my husband is just an incredible partner. And so he took care of the kids. I went to this community acting class. I told the instructor, I have to come late and leave early. I've got 2 little kids at home. And he said, that's okay. Took the class, and he said, you're really good. You should study with my professional teacher, who was Michael Holmes at the time.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And so that's what I did. And I had 2 children at home. I was married. I had my education. I went to the class for the first time, and this beautiful gal, asked me, well, what is it like to be married? And I said, it takes work. And I was the only person there with married and had children. Nobody else, Yeah. And yeah, so then I start studying. And I start studying and doing all the classes. And doing the footwork after I had taken the classes for about 5 years, doing workshops, going for agents, and I've never looked back. I'm still doing it.
There's so many things I want to comment on. I mean, the first thing is that I'm just obsessed with little 10-year-old you going up and being like, put me on your show. I think that is the funniest thing. But it also shows just like the innate tenacity that you had in you to be an actor, even at such a young age. You were just like, I want to do this, and I'm going to go ask how I do it. I mean, not many kids will go do that.
I didn't think about it. I never thought about it till this moment that you said I had tenacity.
Yeah.
It was just such a natural thing. I think with me, just like coming here today, my enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I love people. I guess I'm a passionate person. I'm passionate about whatever I do. So I never thought of it that way. And that's why I said, did I choose it or did it choose me? Because I think when your personality and kind of opportunity comes together, and I think we almost have a path that's like chosen for us sometimes, if we're lucky enough. If we're lucky enough that we can have that choice.
Yeah. I also love the fact that you went and you had almost a full life before you even decided to take this on as a professional career. I mean, getting married and having kids and having your education and all this really, I'm sure, separated you too from your fellow classmates in a way that you were able to understand things that they probably weren't able to understand as far as human connection and love and life and experience.
I never thought of that. That's really an interesting perception. It's so interesting to hear someone else, especially we've never met in person. We've never met. It's our first meeting. And so when someone sees you for the first time, they say in acting, there's a teacher named Sam Christensen. He had a method. I don't know if you recall that if you want to know how you should be cast, his thing was you go to like an airport, you have a friend stop people, and you say, "What's the first 3 words that you think of when you look at that person over there?" So this is kind of like that, and he said once you write down those words, and you keep seeing certain words pop up all the time, then you know that when you walk in a casting room, that is how you're perceived.
Yeah.
Because we don't see ourselves.
It's true. We never see what we are.
So this is kind of like that, because this is all new, and you're very perceptive about, like, you're seeing me for the first time, you're hearing my stories. So this is really a blast.
Yay. Well, okay, so you dive in, you become a professional actor. Do you remember the first, role that you booked where you said, "Oh, here we are. I'm here. I'm on the path. I am doing this"?
Yes, because like my young son said to me, he said, "You started at the top and now you have to fill in all the spaces." I had no credits. That's why I always tell people it's not necessarily who you know and connections. I had just been studying and doing lots of workshops. For those of you out there who don't know, there's these cold reading workshops that used to be in person, and you would go to the workshop.
Far before the virtuals.
Yeah, everything was very different. And you would bring a bunch of your pictures, your photos, and you'd have a scene, and you do a scene in person. And I was doing those all the time. And they're for casting people, maybe directors, producers. And you're hoping that they'll keep your picture and you will get an audition and maybe get a job. And so I was just doing those. I would check the payphone between classes. People out there, I don't know if you know what a payphone is, but
I hope so. Goodness.
So I between my class, I was taking my acting class. I checked the phone, and my agent says, "You have an audition. for a lead in a movie opposite Mickey Rourke and Faye Dunaway. Would you like to go for it? I had
Not
no
even
credits.
a question.
I had no credits. And of course, you know. So, the role was for an alcoholic bag lady who looked worse than death. That was the description of the character. So I dressed as a bag lady. It was down on Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills. I walked through the street. Huh? What?
I just am like trying to imagine this right now.
I walked through the streets and people who were homeless waved at me and smiled. But people who were middle class were very uncomfortable as I walked to the audition and looked away. And I thought, I've got something here. So I went in for the audition. I went in the waiting room. And for those of you out there, the people who work for casting or producers or directors, they are your friends. They are in your corner. In fact, the people and the casting people, everybody's in your corner. They're looking for the right person. Just as much as you want the audition, they want to cast you. They want to find the right person. And so just like I'm happy and smiling here, I go into the waiting room and the gal at the desk, I can still see her. And she goes, if you walk in with that smile, you'll never get the role.
Ooh.
So it was supposed to be a look-see. And it was, so I sat down and waited, and there was a script next to me of the movie. So I read this, I was looking through the script, and then they called me in. And I guess they liked what they saw. Oh, I went in character, by the way. I went in complete character. I was surly and unattractively, really a mess. And Barbet Schroeder was the director. Fred Roos was the producer. And they liked what they saw, apparently. And they said, oh, we'd like you to read. And they hand me the script, and they show me a scene. Now, this is naivete, and sometimes it works in your favor. I knew nothing about the industry other than studying, right? I literally said, no, I want to read this scene that I had seen in the script. And I grabbed, there was a shot glass on the desk. Now, for your listeners, one of the cardinal rules is don't touch the desk of the casting person. But I didn't know that. So I grabbed the shot glass and I read the scene in character. Keep in mind, they never knew I was anybody else but this character. And the director, Barbet, says in his French-Swiss accent, she's Lily, she's Lily. The character's name was Lily. And then that was the end of the audition. And then I put the script down and I start kind of laughing, and they kind of were laughing. And I let go of my character. And they said, wait a minute, it was before, just one other thing. Before I went out of character, and it might have been before we read, I had sat in the waiting room thinking, if they ask me what I've done, what am I going to say? I had nothing. I had done a teeny little film. That's all. I had nothing. And so I thought, what am I going to say? But I was in character. So they said to me, what have you done? And I said, who wants to know? And they just loved it. They loved it. I think that's when, and then they asked me, I think that's when they asked me to read the scene. And so that's how, and then 3 days later, Nancy Lara, the casting director, called me. I've never had this happen again, ever. She called me 3 days later and she said, I just want you to know that you're their number one choice. And you beat out Cloris Leachman, Madeline Kahn, and Sandra Bernhardt for this role. Now, I don't know how many of your listeners know who those people are.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was how she told me. And the movie is iconic. It's Barfly. And if you can get a chance to see it, yeah. So that's the story. And to this day, that was in 1986. I still get the reaction from casting and people in the industry and outside of it, like, oh, you were great in Barfly. Yeah.
Wow.
So
that is an incredible story. Oh my God. I mean, how was it for you working on a film with such huge names when you were just like getting used to being on set?
Yeah, I had no idea what a major set was. I also didn't know who Mickey Rourke was. I knew who Faye Dunaway was. But when I went back to class after the audition, the next week, I was, my teacher and everybody said, how'd the audition go? And I said, I got it. And they said, oh, you mean you got the audition? I said, no. I just said, no, I got the role. And I said, and it's with Mickey Rourke and Pete Dunaway, and everybody knew but me.
Yeah.
And that's how I had no idea of his success. There was no IMDb, everybody. There was no
Right. You had to like actually know who they were just by like watching their work. There was no social media. There's no IMDb. It's not like you could just look people up whenever you wanted to.
Right. Our industry now is completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you just mentioned something that really hit home, when I went on the set, the writer of Barfly was the famed Charles Bukowski, the poet of Los Angeles.
God. Yeah.
And of all people, he comes on the set, and he and his wife at the time, Sally, walk up to me, moi, and say, we've never been on a movie set. Can you show us around?
You're like, I wish. I don't know.
Well, I didn't say no. I showed them around. I spent the week with them on the set, talking with them, getting to know them. I mean, the whole experience was the most iconic experience you could ever have as an actor at any time in your career.
Mm.
The whole thing was just, and I think because I was so naive and it was all new, I wasn't, nervous or like uncomfortable with the leads because I just did my work and everybody was so kind, and it was probably just an incredibly supportive set. Faye Dunaway took me in her, as you say, under her wing.
Mm.
And we would walk together and talk and, and I, Mickey was, always in the moment in his role, in his persona. And it was just looking back and at the time, I knew at the time, it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I just want to say that I have been very fortunate. I have always found that working with professional actors, directors, producers, crew, everybody is really working together. It's a collaborative experience. Everybody wants it to do well. And Barbet Schroeder really set the bar for me as the director.
Hmm.
He set the tone for that film. Like, he took care of everybody. I don't care what your role was, if you were background or what. He spent time with everyone. He cared about everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's, what an iconic way to enter the industry.
Right.
And since then, obviously, you've worked with some crazy, crazy, amazing people, and just been on practically every TV show that exists, which is amazing. But I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about what it was like working with Clint Eastwood and being directed by him.
Well, the man just doesn't get older, and he just is the cool. I did an interview once. I said he is the coolest. He is the definition of cool.
Yeah.
I really did not know what cool was. When somebody says you're cool, I wrote that in my journal. He was the definition, or is the definition of cool. And that experience, I mean, he was 82 when we did J. Edgar, okay?
Wow.
He was 82. He was physically fit, handsome. And once again, I guess I have a naiveness, even, there's something about my persona, it's kind of naive. So when they brought me on the set, and I want to say that every person, they said to me, this is the best set they've ever worked on.
Wow.
Because he's just, he really runs a set as to be humane. The hours aren't long. And so, they got me from the trailer, your trailer, and, to go on the set. Well, when you walk into a sound studio, those who've had the opportunity, it's dark. If you're not, it's dark. She can't see. So they're just kind of guiding me along. And then they stop. Now I can't see anybody. And they stop at a point, and there's people sitting there. So I just said, how are you? I didn't realize it was Clint. So I said, how are you? And he goes, and also my eyes started adjusting, and he goes, and how are you?
Oh!
And then I got kind of all flustered. I go, I didn't realize. And we were going to work on the scenes, and he is a generous director. I think because he was an actor. So he wants to know what you want. He's open to the actor's input. And Leonardo
Just Leo,
DiCaprio, yeah, he was there too, because he was involved in that scene, that particular scene, and he was giving suggestions. He was saying, you think I should, I think about this scene. But Clint wasn't just for the lead actor. He did the same thing with me. And he joked because I was positioned and I did something. And he goes, just, a little more screen time, he joked. And yeah. And I mean, yeah, it was really wonderful. And I see it in front of me now. And I enjoyed every second of it. Yeah. And he does film very fast. He joked with me and he goes, sorry it took so long. He laughed. And the gal who was my stand-in said before, as we were walking, to tell me ahead of time, she said, sometimes he films it while you're rehearsing. Like it's done, like you don't know. He does it. He does a few takes maybe, and that's how he moves on. Yeah, it's just.
I mean, I love that. I love because when you hire an actor for a role, you already know that they know the character because you've trusted them with this role, and I love the fact that he works it out with you a little bit and then says, "Great, let's just do it and move on."
Yeah, you don't know. You just kind of do it. And then all of a sudden you go,
wow.
Is it, it's over? It's
Amazing.
A very quiet set. It's really quiet. He doesn't yell action. It's just really quiet.
Wow. That's so cool.
Which
I love
is
that.
very, very different. Very different.
Yeah,
it's a happy set, but very quiet. Yeah.
We're going to take a quick commercial break and then we'll be right back.
As a podcast network, our focus is bringing you shows you love to listen to. But we also sell merch related to those shows. And partnering with Shopify has made that both possible and simple for us to do. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor adventures, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. because they've got you covered from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. What's so fantastic about Shopify is how, no matter how big you want to grow, they provide everything you need to get control of your business so you can take it to the next level. Businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/realm.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is,
"Thank you for calling. Please listen to your list of 46 possible service options."
which is why when you choose USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable. 24/7 online service for claims, access to roadside assistance, and more, all at the touch of a button. Start getting the service you deserve. Get a quote today. Ability to receive a quote depends on membership eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
And back to the show. I'd love to just ask you a little bit. I know that you've dedicated some of your free time to the SAG Conservatory, which is fantastic. Thank you for that and your service. I want to know, because you've studied so much and you clearly are incredible at breaking things down and working on the craft. I want to know if there's anything that you do before every audition that you say, this, if I only have time to do one thing, I want to make sure I have the time to do this.
That's interesting. I think the most important thing, and we kind of said this just as we were introducing each other before the opening, just remember to listen. If you listen, if it's really, really fast, if you listen and you're in the moment, you are exactly reacting as in real life.
Mm-hmm.
You just asked me a question. I had to think about it and then respond. As those of you who are actors out there or have studied, you know Meisner technique. Acting is reacting in imaginary circumstances. I think it's very hard as an actor not to go for a result and plan.
Yeah.
Sometimes less is more. The less you know, not know, but the less time sometimes that you have, if you're just handed something and you have to do like an ice cold reading, you have to listen. You have to react exactly. You have to be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think would be the key. We don't get to do that kind of acting anymore so much.
I know.
Because we do everything at home. And I was thinking about this because of I knew your interview and you were going to be, it's about acting and auditions. The joy of going into a room where there are real people, it's a performance.
Mm-hmm.
And all the stories have to do, at least for me, with when you're really in a room and what happens. All that is basically non-existent anymore. To get an in-person audition is extremely rare. And, you get your sides or whatever it is. Now, sometimes it's supposedly supposed to be at least 24 hours. It might sometimes be shorter. So you feel like, you read it through, you read your script, you want to learn about the story. We're storytellers, we want to tell a story. And you want to break it down, you want to do all these things. It's so much more technical.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd also add that the process for me is always changing. Like every audition almost feels like it's the first audition. And what technique, all the technique I've had for all these years, I've studied, I break it down. But then you think, well, maybe I should try this or do something different, or and I'm always playing with it, like fine tuning it, trying to find different ways. And one of the things, if you have the time, like you're talking about, like these, like if you get an audition, like, okay, like it used to be, you go in for one role and they go, that was great, but you know what? I think you might be right for a different role. So here's a script. Can you kind of give us this read? And actors would always ask at workshops, well, do we have to do it? Or should we say, can we take a few minutes and just look at it? You know? So, I mean, it depends on the situation. But one of the things I love to do, if I have the time, is research a character. I mean, really learn, like if it was a psychiatrist, you know, what does that work entail? What's this all about? You know, or things like that. So, yeah.
I'm the same. I love to do a deep dive. I was talking about this with a few of my acting friends. I think it was yesterday, and we were talking about like our different styles. But something that we all have come to the realization of is that we have to like give ourselves time limits with self tapes. And so what I started doing, I don't know, I guess it was during the start of the pandemic, what I started doing was saying, okay, I'm going to treat it like it's an audition. I'm going to say, I have an audition tomorrow at 10 a.m. That means I need to be ready at 10 a.m. Even if I'm just at my home and somebody's, you know, doing the dialogue with me here or they're over Zoom, whatever it is. In my head, it's at 10 a.m. And in my head, I can only have 10 minutes to do it because that's pretty much what I would get in the room if it was like a lead role and they asked me to do it over again. And so that's what I do. And it helps with at least the energy portion, but I miss in-person auditions so much. Like, I just want to be in a room with somebody. I want to have that energy. I want to have that connection. I want to be able to ask questions. That's my biggest thing. Like, I was always the actor who walked into the room and said, can you answer this, this, and this for me before we do this? Because I really need to know. And it just changed. It would sometimes completely change how I saw a character. And then I would book it because I was able to ask that question. And so, yeah, it's a tangent. But I love in-persons and I really want them to come back. Or at least virtuals, something so that I can see and feel somebody's presence.
Right. I had my first in-person audition in 4 years. 4 years for a theatrical in-person. It was for Matlock. It was so wonderful. I was like, oh, thank you. Oh, this is wonderful. This is wonderful.
I feel like when I finally get a theatrical in-person audition, I might just cry in the room. Like,
it's true.
It's true. I don't know.
It's true. I was, you know, and then the direction, like to get redirected.
Mm-hmm.
When we used to go in, you had an idea about the character, the story, and you do it. But you knew if they were interested, and it wasn't exactly the direction they wanted to go, they would redirect you.
Mm-hmm. And
you go, oh, okay, and you do it, and exactly like you, I would book it.
Right. Well, and it's also the thing too, where it's like, even if you nail it on the first one and you are that character, their ability to be able to redirect you to make sure that you can be redirected on set and that you're not overcoached or you're not, you know, this or that you're, you know, a real actor, that's gone. So people are getting on set and they try to redirect somebody and then they can't redirect them because they don't really know what they're doing. It's wild.
I'm hearing that lately. Have you heard feedback about that? Have you heard something?
I recently heard some places are having some troubles with that. And I think it's because we are now lacking the ability to redirect and make sure that an actor is like ready to take on a role in a professional setting. Right.
I think I just remembering back, I think I don't know if it was a audition or on a set. I didn't know when first began, that if you're redirected, it's positive. And I think I was so upset once, when I began, and someone said, no, that means they're interested. They just, sometimes they just want to see, if you could take direction. And now that this is really going down the path memory lane, but I was very, very fortunate to be brought in by one of the most famous and wonderful casting directors, Mally Finn. People may not remember her. She was the creme de la creme of casting. She knew how to bring out the best in any actor. And she had brought me in for a small independent film as a Mennonite woman.
Oh, wow.
And I booked the film, and I remember sitting in her office, and she said, I'm going to be doing a project in 6 weeks, and I think you might be right for it. And so, I thanked her, and I figured, well, it won't. So I did my little project, and sure enough, 6 weeks later, she called, I guess through my agent, and I went in for that role, and I booked that role, and that was Indictment, the McMartin Trial.
Oh, wow.
And we won. That was another thing like Barfly, because a huge role, one of the main roles. And we won the Emmy, the Golden Globe, and the Emmy and the Golden Globe for Best Movie of the Week.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. But what I wanted to say was, you're giving me all this open space to talk about all my war stories.
I want to hear it.
But I was thinking back. So she called me in for a number of projects, and one of them was for a television show. And I just was going to mention how she directed me. It was for a news reporter. So I did the audition, and then she redirected me, and it was the direction was like, just like you said, it didn't make any sense. Why would you do that if you were a news reporter? But she gave me the direction. I did it, and she said, okay. And then I booked the role, and it was literally just taking the direction and doing what she said and applying it. And it's playing. You get to play with your characters.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have that anymore. We're doing what we can at home by ourselves with our cameras. And if you're lucky enough to have a reader, my poor husband, poor man, has to do all.
It's always the significant others that get stuck doing it every single time.
So,
well, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about your new TV show, Presumed Innocent, on Apple+. You're working with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ruth Negga and Peter Sarsgaard. Oh my God, I love Peter Sarsgaard. And then it's also the showrunner's David E. Kelley, right? From Big Little Lies.
He's the writer.
He's iconic. How was that show to work on? How is it to work with all of these huge people?
I guess I was speechless. I really felt I was in the presence of greatness.
Mm.
I am watching. What I love to do is when you get these roles with these iconic actors, these people who are just at the top of their game, the best actors in the world, really, seriously. I was just in awe to watch their process. Because this is a 6 month this was a 6 month production.
Whew.
And just to be there and watch the process of the rehearsal and the filming and the set, it was really mind-boggling. And I'm rather expressive, I guess, as you see, and I share my feelings. And I would say to the crew, I'd say, the set I was in the courtroom. So the set was a build set. We were not in a real brick and mortar building. That was built on the Warner Brothers ranch lot, which now does not exist.
Gone,
They demolished it right after we finished filming. It sat, if I'm not over exaggerating, 200 people.
Holy
It was
Lord.
literally, you would never know you were not in a courtroom. It was the most incredible set. The camera work. I know people maybe don't talk so much about this. The people who did the camera work, it was literally like watching a ballet. I am not kidding you. It was the most incredible thing where they had 13 cameras, I believe, going. Somebody said, don't quote me because I don't know anything about cameras. I was asking them questions all the time, like, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you maneuver? It was like a dinosaur. There was this huge, that's how big the set was. This huge. And it took three cameramen to work it. And then the lead, I believe he was lead, but I'm not sure, cameraman. Literally, I'm a ballet dancer. I'm a dancer. That's my chapel, so to speak, since I've been 5. So he actually did point, almost stepping like on his tiptoes with this enormous camera carrying that must weigh a ton, strapped to him. And when I watched the series, I knew how that was done. And I don't think there's any way to appreciate how they did this. Anyways, I could go on and on about just the observation and watching the actors and the talent and the warmth and the fun. And like I said, going back to my war story, Barfly, you won't believe this, but rumor got around that I was Lily in Barfly in 1986. I believe that's what IMDb says. IMDb is all knowing. And between the breaks, Peter Sarsgaard and different actors and different crew, they'd come up to me and they'd start talking to me, and like Peter said, "Oh, I can't believe, what was it like? What was it like to work on that? Oh, I can't believe it." And then
my God.
It was the funniest thing, and here I am, just sitting quietly. I was so shocked. It really was. It was funny. And I just want to say, each actor watching them, like Ruth Negga, she's, I don't know if you've seen the series, but anyway, she's very, it's a very intense series. It's incredibly intense, and personality-wise, she's the most bubbly, happy, bouncy, generous person you can meet. She's this ball of energy, and it was just so funny. And and Jake is probably one of the most intense actors I've seen. He works. They all worked. They worked so hard. They all worked with such intensity and such dedication. Everybody was just incredibly dedicated.
Yeah.
And the food was incredible.
That's the cherry on top right there. I can't remember. There's a movie that Jake Gyllenhaal did a few years back where he was a 911 operator, and it was just him, and like it acted in like real time, I think. I don't know, but it was mostly just him on camera, and it was the most intense acting I think I've ever seen on screen. I was just completely memorized by it. So I can only imagine what it's like to experience that in person. It has to be very, like, almost jarring.
That's interesting. That it's a very intense subject. The story is based on the book, the novel Presumed Innocent by Scott Turow. Mm-hmm. And I think I do know. According what I heard is, his intensity is what they really wanted for that. But the funny thing is, he and Peter Sarsgaard are brother-in-laws.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yes. So between the intensity and the scenes where they're fighting, arguing because they're opponents. I mean, Sarsgaard, Peter is the prosecutor. Jake is literally the defendant, and then winds up defending himself as the lawyer, as his own lawyer. But they're best friends. I mean, they're brother-in-laws, they're brother-in-laws, they're friends, and they would play. Then between to relax, I guess. They'd play. Like they, and it was, so it was the fun side, kind of like the relaxing bit, like that. Yeah. So it was really the most incredible. I say that about all of these, but they are. I've just been really, really fortunate, and I appreciate. And I always think to myself, like, I remember sitting at Universal. I was doing, I think it was Crossing Jordan, the television show, and we had a break, and we were the young man playing my son and I were sitting on the steps of the famous house of Hitchcock's film
Psycho.
Yes. and this train, they have trams that come through, okay, and people were coming through. We were sitting on the steps between scenes, and I said to this young man, we talked, and I said, we're so lucky. The whole world wants to be doing what we're doing. And I just feel like have to feel grateful every time you walk on the set. Every time I drive onto, you don't do that so much. Every time I drive onto the lot, like the Fox Studios lot in Beverly Hills, it was such a thrill just to be there, and auditions or to work or drop off my pictures, my headshots. People don't do that anymore.
During the pandemic, I went through like all of the old VHSs and I transferred them on to be like digital files. So I found like my reel from when I was probably 9, 10, 11 that was on a VHS because they weren't on DVDs yet. And I was like, wow, we really used to send these to people. This is great.
Right. Yeah, I've still got mine.
Yep.
They're on a bookshelf. Yeah. People don't know. You'd run around dropping your headshots off, sending
postcards.
Oh,
many postcards.
What?
So my mom and I sent so many postcards.
I remember when I first started, my friend had her pictures and postcards out, and she was saying, I send these all out, and I thought, huh. And then I was doing the same thing. When my daughter was in gymnastics taking class, I'd be in the waiting room, and I'd have the postcards, and I'd be filling them out. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, that's every time you did a project or just to remind casting that you existed, you would send out postcards with your picture and what you're doing. And, oh, you're reminding me, it's been so long. And you'd have like updates on it.
Yep.
And I remember I used to send 1,000 postcards out for each project.
Yeah. I wonder what the like equivalent of that would be now. Just like sharing an Instagram post with a bunch of casting directors, tagging them. Like, what are we supposed to do?
I don't even know. That's one of the problems. I trying to stay in touch it's
difficult.
It's different.
Well, I was going to ask you to share an audition story. You've shared a couple. I don't know if you have another up your sleeve you want to drop on the show, but you're more than welcome to if you'd like to.
I mean, the weirdest audition I think I ever had was on a boat in the marina, and it kept swaying, and I felt kind of seasick. I mean, the person said, "Here, we'll do it on we'll just read it here." I mean, I don't remember exactly what it was for, but I do remember that was the strangest kind of experience, and
it's wild.
I really don't remember quite exactly what that was for, but I just remember it was kind of unusual, that's the one thing you don't have those experiences anymore. And
no.
But it's been, I'm so glad. I think both of us were fortunate to be in the industry. I mean, you were a little girl, and so you got to experience it as you growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of always a little girl, sort of. But mine was later, post like everything in my life. After I mean, my kids were like little, and but I think we're fortunate to have experienced that time where you went on the studio lot. You saw your friends. I think you saw you saw other actors. You'd go into an audition and you'd see the people that usually the same kind of people up for it. You'd get a sense of the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Sunset Boulevard, the play.
Yeah.
And we don't have that anymore.
No. Well, I think that's one of the reasons why the strike was such a success last year as far as community, because we were so isolated from each other for so long that the second you made it onto a strike line and saw all these other actors, you were like, oh my God, look at all of these actors. Right. This is so great. I mean, I was a captain at WB, and I became such good friends with so many people that I now talk to nonstop. And we're all actors together, and it's like it reignited the community that you would have found if you were going to auditions and you were out with people. And I mean, there's so many times I'd just be like, oh, you want to go get lunch after our audition? Like, what are you doing? You want to go grab a coffee really quick? Like, let's catch up.
That's right.
So I think that was good for the community and good for newer actors who had joined the union or who are about to join the union to kind of see that a bit. But I'm still hoping that one day we get back to.
I know. I didn't know. I was always going to WB Warner Brothers. You were there?
Oh, you saw me. I was there almost every day out there.
Because that's where I would go to march with my stick all the time.
I was there almost every day. I had my vest on. I was captaining. It was fun.
And I just want to compliment you and all the team captains. For anybody out there, the volunteers for the SAG, the strike were beyond unbelief. They were just beyond belief. It was so well organized. It was, you walked us across the street. They made sure we were safe.
Yeah.
There was plenty of food.
So much food.
Camaraderie. And you're right. I mean, nobody wanted a strike.
No.
But you go, hi. You're so happy to see everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you guys
made
did
friends
it.
And you had fun. I think that was the funniest thing about the strike is, right, we're all upset because we have to be on strike, but then we made it so fun when we were out there with music and games and all the themes all the time that it didn't, it wasn't depressing to be out there as strikes normally are. We made it like a party, and it made everything so much better.
It was a party. I mean, you guys, there was tents, people were singing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the karaoke.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
It was good times.
Yeah, it was, it's who you're with what makes a party.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. It doesn't matter, when my husband and I do something, we just can go to the market. We can go to his favorite restaurant, Bob's Big Boy, which yeah, in fact, and it's who you're with, because it's just fun. It's just like an enjoyable time, and that's what it was like. It was a big actors. I mean, we don't want another strike so that we can see each other.
No, we don't need that.
But we're looking at things in a positive way.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've so loved having you on the show. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we wrap up here?
Well, I could say that in order to feed my soul, I do a one-person show, and yes. I've become a scholar on Amelia Earhart, who was the first woman to cross the Atlantic in 1928 as a passenger in an airplane, which I think people are just shocked because she didn't even fly the plane. No woman had been in a plane going across. And I do the show. I've done it for many, many years all over. And then I also a little self-promotion.
Yeah.
I have my book.
Oh my goodness.
My book's been out, and it's Amelia Earhart, Me and Our Friends, Journaling the Journey, the Amelia Earhart self-help book. And
how cool.
Yes. And people sometimes don't realize this is me. That's Amelia Earhart. I don't know if you can see it.
Wow.
Of course, you can get it on Amazon like everything else. But yeah, so that's my own personal little gem that I've done for many, many years, and it's pulled me into the aviation community. It allows me to motivate people, hopefully inspire them and educate them and entertain all at the same time. So it takes together my love of teaching, which I have a teaching credential, which I got before
all this started.
Yeah, and performance, and also trying to inspire everyone to go after their dreams, because I really have always felt that you cannot be happy as an individual if you do not follow the passion that's inside of you. Life may not be perfect, and it may not go the way you hope, but it literally is about day to day, each journey and each step. Because you may find out when you accomplish what you think your goal is, you may find it's not what it was all cracked up to be. But if you enjoy what you're doing, and we must, because we keep doing it.
Because we're still here.
That's right. So, yeah, so I had developed the play. I was in a rep company. I wrote the play there. And then I did it for a group called Women in Theater, which asked me to do it during Women's History Month. And that was a long time ago. And then people kept hiring me to do the play in different places. Then people said, we want you to write a book. And I thought, there's enough books on Amelia Earhart. But then I had all this knowledge in my head, so I had to put it someplace. And for some reason, I just found her fascinating. And they do think that they have finally, for those of you who don't know, she disappeared over the Atlantic in 1937 when she was, her goal was to circumnavigate the globe. At the equator, and she disappeared in the Pacific, and her mystery, her is been all consuming since 1937. But recently, it does look like it's the first time, and there's been a lot of false reports, but this one really sounds like they did find the plane. It's in the right location. And the sonar pictures look identical from the sonar. The shape of she flew a plane called the Lockheed Electra 10. And it looks, to me, and I think to most people, this looks like it might be. It's in the right place. She was lost 100 miles. It seemed to me from the sonar, she was about within 100 miles of her destination. Wow. And this was found 100 miles from her destination. So, I mean,
that's wild.
It has a lot of credibility.
I saw that. I think it was yesterday. I saw I skimmed it, and then I was like, oh, I need to go back to that. I need to read what that was, and then I didn't. But now we're here, and we're talking about it.
Yeah.
That it just washed up on shore, right? Like it just washed up on shore?
No.
No? Where did they find it?
They haven't found it. So
okay.
I just want to be clear. They haven't found it. There isn't tangible proof yet. But teams have gone out for years and years trying to find it. And they've used sonar equipment. And this was a sonar submersible.
Got it. Okay.
And they were looking. And then on the last day, things like that always happens, It's like that. So on the last day, I think it was something like that, all of a sudden they see something. And the sonar picture, if anybody looks it up on the news, looks the shape of the Lockheed Electra, and it's it's on the bottom of the ocean floor, and the shape, the location, it's all in the right place. Since I've been doing the show, there have been groups that have spent a fortune trying to locate the person who wrote the foreword to my book, Elgin Long, first man to circumnavigate the globe from north to south. Mm. He had gone on a number of excursions. He had a famous book also on Amelia Earhart, and we became fast friends. I mean, I know it's funny. I would just want to say to you viewers, the road you take, you never know where it's going to lead. I am not a flyer. People always ask me, I am not, and I have nothing to do with aviation. I just wrote a play on her, and that journey has taken me into aviation. I've gotten to know all these famous people in aviation. I've been at all kinds of events about it. I've traveled places I would never have gone. It's another thing. You just don't know where things are going to take you. And so Elgin had gone on excursions across the globe, also researching. They had used submersibles. They had mapped the floor. But this time, these people just happened with their submersible to get this. And so next year, I believe they're going to try to pull it up.
Wow. You got to be there. You got to go out there.
That's okay. I'll let them do the work.
No, you can stay like on the coast. Just wait for them to bring it back in, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm an actor, remember?
Yeah. Wait a second. I'm not an actual explorer. I need to well, that's so cool. I've had such a great time talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on. And how can people follow you? Do you have any sort of social media where people can find all of your escapades?
Well, first of all, I do want to say that this has been the most fun ever. You're just wonderful, and you bring out, I think, the best in your guest.
Thank you.
So you've allowed me to just share and talk about all these aspects. Well, I'm on Instagram and I am on Facebook. And so Instagram is Roberta Bassin. Got to have that dot between the two names.
Got to have the dot.
And Facebook is Roberta Bassin. So you can message me on either way. Instagram is usually the best. People are on Instagram. Yeah. So yes. So that would be great. I'm happy to talk or answer any of the questions they might, or say hi. But anyways, this has been a joy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was so great. And I hope everybody goes and watches Presumed Innocent and keeps up to date with the Amelia Earhart updates here. We gotta stay on this.
Yeah, it's a journey. Everything's a journey. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to your listeners for listening or watching, and just follow your dreams, follow your passions. And do things that fill your soul.
Thanks again to Roberta for coming on the show. Make sure to check out Presumed Innocent on Apple+. And yeah, that's all I got for you today. Make sure to, check us out over on YouTube, trying to build that up. So give us a follow over there. Tune in a couple weeks for another episode. And as always, thanks for coming in.
Welcome to the small town of Chinook, where faith runs deep and secrets run deeper. In this new thriller, religion and crime collide when a gruesome murder rocks the isolated Montana community. Everyone is quick to point their fingers at a drug-addicted teenager, but local deputy Ruth Vogel isn't convinced. She suspects connections to a powerful religious group. Enter federal agent V.B. Laureau, who has been investigating a local church for possible criminal activity. The pair form an unlikely partnership to catch the killer, unearthing secrets that leave Ruth torn between her duty to the law, her religious convictions, and her very own family. But something more sinister than murder is afoot, and someone is watching Ruth.
Chinook, starring Kelly Marie Tran and Sanaa Lathan. Listen to Chinook wherever you get your podcasts.
Nowadays, trends and news cycles change faster than we can blink. But there are some things that withstand the test of time. And if you're looking for a connection to something timeless, and maybe also a glimpse of life at a slower pace, I believe everyone can relate to the very human experiences explored in Jane Austen's novels. And that's where I come in. My name is Alison Larkin. I'm a writer, comedian, and narrator and host of the Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin. I spent a lot of my childhood in the part of England where Jane Austen lived and wrote, and now that I live in the States, nothing gives me a sense of homecoming quite like narrating her books. On this show, you'll listen to award-winning narration. I'll give myself a pat on the back for that. As well as conversations with actors, writers, and other fascinating people who all share a passionate love for Jane Austen. So please, join me as we embark on a wonderful journey through Jane Austen's work. Be sure to listen and subscribe to the Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin, wherever you get your podcasts.